The A's just took 2 of 3 in Colorado and now come back home, and I use that word loosely, to face one of baseball's best teams in the San Diego Padres. We have Javier Reyes, host of Locked On Padres, to discuss today in a crossover episode of Locked On A's and Locked On Padres.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's in this special edition of a crossover episode with Locked On Padres, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Booney, one name, all passion. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard fan since '81. This isn't just another A's podcast. This is the most informative and insightful show on the A's, period. We cover the A's every single day, breaking down games, delivering the latest team news, and giving you deep, thoughtful analysis you will not find anywhere else. If it's happening in Sacramento or Vegas, we got you covered. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Javi, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you doing? Excited for this series and just excited that baseball's back, man. You know,
I'm excited baseball's back. I don't know if I'm really excited for this series. Actually, I'm dreading it, to be honest with you. I'd rather have this series being played in San Diego, but we're in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's going to be definitely a storyline for especially Padres fans. This will be their first kind of exposure to that whole thing. What has that been like so far, do you think? In terms of just like the ballpark itself, like the dimensions, and have you felt, I don't know, like what the numbers or statistics are, like if there's been more home runs, less home runs, more offense, less offense, like has there been anything like that you've seen like impact actual games?
I went to 2 of 3 games. We've played only 3 games there. I went to 2 of them. I went to opening night and I went to the day game against the Cubs, and we got rolled in all 3. Mm-hmm. And I've known the park from before, and going into the season, everyone was like saying it'll play neutral, and I'm like, it's not going to play neutral. I said during the winter time, it's going to play about 60%, 40% towards the hitters, and when we get to the summer, it's going to be like Colorado Part 2, right? You got small, real small fences in right field where balls will just kind of creep out. I think it's playing big time towards the hitters, and we saw that in the first series against the Cubs. Now, did that have a lot to do with Cubs hitting and A's pitching? Maybe, sure. You could definitely put some on that. It's a minor league ballpark. There's nothing intimate about it. Just imagine Petco Park with taking the whole second deck, your whole upper deck away off it. You know what I mean? But not as nice, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is. There's anything special about it. It is what it is, right? It's a minor league ballpark. I've said it in the past. The A's made a big mistake with regard to coming out and not using Sacramento as part of their name, just athletics. And I think that was a slap in the face of the Sacramento fans. And the feeling in the ballpark and when you go to it in the city itself is eerie. It's very, very eerie. It's like a bunch of fans attending a baseball game, not necessarily rooting for one team or another. And Sacramento has a great fan base as far as the Kings and so forth. And I felt that was a huge mistake by the A's. They don't look comfortable out there playing. With that being said, is it an overreaction? Maybe. We played a very good Cubs team, but we got rolled too. You know, I mean, they scored 18 runs in the opener. They scored double digits in the third game. None of the games were close. So, you know, that's part of it as well. That could be. Who knows? I just, you know, that's my feeling on the stadium and going into it. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward. And we have the Padres coming in town, then the Mets. So I'm not looking forward to the homestand at all. But again, it could be an overreaction. Tell me about the Padres season so far. You guys started on undefeated, and you played a real tough Cubs team. I mean, I feel the top 6 teams in baseball right now are all from the National League. You got the Dodgers, Giants, Padres, Mets, Phillies, and I think Cubs is right there, number 6.
Yeah, I mean, look, bottom line, we're going to stay undefeated. That's not how that works, right? Like, that's just what happens.
Would have been nice.
And look, I think that it's a tale of two things, right? Where the Sunday game was great. I talked about that on my show yesterday. Salvage the series and all of that stuff. Game 1 was, you could kind of chalk that up to Imanaga had a great start, and the Padres just couldn't hit into him. And again, they're 7-0. Like, at some point, you're not going to hit every single time. I think the bad game was lots of plays, but even in that game, some of the advanced stuffs, they had a lot of unlucky hits later on in the game that ended up being caught, right? Like, blasts off the bat from both Merrill and Tatis. There was one off of Tatis' bat that was shot, but it was right at the first baseman, ended up being double play. Merrill hit a rocket, but it went into the pitcher and then it bounced off of him to the defensive player. So it was just one of those games where this things didn't go right on top of you not playing well. And then Sunday they made a nice comeback. So the Padres, I still think all in all, the vibes are very good sitting at 8-2 so far this year. I mean, it's basically all you could have asked for. You extend Jackson Merrill too. I think that the only thing that is worth looking into further is, admittedly, the rotation when it comes to what is going to happen with the back of the end of the rotation. Because Kyle Hart was alarmingly bad in Sunday's game. Randy Vasquez issued a lot of walks, wasn't great, but wasn't quite horrid, right? It just wasn't a great game for him. And that's kind of what happens when you have number 5, starters. You're just hoping that they go deep into the game. Kyle Hart didn't even make it past the first inning. Nobody was chasing any of his pitches. And they were hitting rockets off of him too whenever they did. It was rough, really bad control from his part. So it's like as bad a start you could have, frankly, like especially for someone who's making their way back to Major League Baseball. So that is a question mark.
Yeah.
Also a second start, and his first start, which was pretty solid, affords him at least a little bit more time for sure. The Padres signed him for a reason. And I think most importantly is you saw in his first start, even when he did well, is that he's still figuring out his pitch mix. So I think those are kind of the storylines, I guess, from recent storylines with the Padres. But otherwise, the team looks pretty good. Gavin Sheets delivering well in the DH, right? Luis Arraez slowly starting to heat up. You might see that this series as well.
Is Tatis leading off? Am I seeing that correctly? Tatis is leading off, and Luis is batting second, right?
Yes.
Wow. So that's a change from last year. They had it the other way around.
Yes. Last year it was Tatis. I'm going to say Tatis was second or whatever.
Second, yes, and Luis was leading off.
Yeah, I think that this makes a lot of sense for a bunch of reasons. First of all, it's just the overall numbers for Tatis in his career when he's batting leadoff are infinitely better. He's got 158 WRC plus batting first in total, batting second 122. Still a very good player, but that's a seismic gap, right? And I think that what you see, it's a game flow thing in baseball, right? Where it's you're going to get not only just more at bats, he's also a guy with speed, so they don't want to walk him, and they're going to throw him more fastballs, and that's pretty good for a player like Tatis. So it just makes more sense from there. And Arraez is a singles guy, so the world in which Tatis steals second, you just get a single from Arraez, and that's a run, right? And he's been stealing bases. He's been very aggressive this year, and I think Arraez also importantly, not necessarily the best leadoff hitter. Yes, he's a peasant, right? Like, I should say, like he can foul off anything, he can swing at anything, but he actually ranks really low in pitches per plate appearance over the last 3 years. So I think they were like, well, this guy isn't going to get walks, and if he gets a single, that's kind of the equivalent of that. And it's possible he only goes 3 pitches and grounds out first, and we don't want to start that way. So I love that small change in the lineup so far. I think, especially with Tatis seemingly healed and looking like a superstar version of Tatis rather than just these really good fringe star player that he has been the past few years.
Javi, you guys are 8-2 right now, right? You just came off 2 out of 3. You took the finale yesterday. Tell me about the first few series, your expectations going in, and have they reached or obviously got off to a 7-0 start. So who'd you guys play the first 2 series? Obviously they were both sweeps, and did you see that coming?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, because the big thing here is that they played the Braves to start off, which is the team that was kind of favored to be next to the Dodgers, the best team in baseball, right?
But they're up the Braves right now,
Yeah, the Braves, not only did they get swept by the Padres, but then they got swept by the team after, right? Like the Dodgers were beating them up. You have the Jerks Profar suspension, right? Like they're already having another season from hell, considering that last year was also a season from hell for them. So they're not looking great. And the Guardians, I ain't surprised to sweep of the Guardians. The Guardians are just they've been basically a spoiler team for the better part of the last decade, where like they have good players, great talent evaluators there, but their lack of spending when they need to makes it feel like they are a very good regular season team to watch out for. But offense, they just couldn't hit. And I think that what you saw those first two series, and frankly, what you also saw in the Cubs series, I think if there's one thing I had to put my money on, one thing that I'd be like, what has happened so far will stay the same, I think is the Padres bullpen. I just think it's that good. I really do. I think Suarez, even if he takes a step back, is going to be good. Estrada is crazy. Yuki Matsui is very good. They also have some guys who are hurt that are coming back, like Sean Reynolds, who Ruben Niebla, fun fact, pitching coach for the Padres, someone hyped him up on Twitter, and Ruben Niebla liked the tweet himself. Like, I think they know, like, this guy's a nasty. So I think the Padres bullpen is going to be really big for them. We're going to get into pitching matchups. They might not necessarily need that in the first game because they have, Michael King and Dylan Cease coming up. But as you get into the third game, I do think that you might see the little bit of this Padres bullpen.
A's opened up in Seattle, and Seattle had big hype to them. Some predictions had them going to the World Series, and you could see why with that pitching staff, right? It's a legitimate pitching staff. We went to Seattle, and for the A's, I said, hey, get out of there with the splits considered a win. And I was ecstatic, right? Obviously, we go to come home. I say that word loosely, play the Cubs. I was thinking, okay, and the Cubs weren't coming off the best series against the D-backs. And I was like, let's take 2 out of 3. We should be able to get that done. We get blown out of the water. We go to Colorado. I was like, let's get 2 out of 3. We get that done. But it was an ugly series. It was bad baseball. It's 2 bad teams right now, right? We're not doing anything right. We're not hitting. We're not pitching well. Our bullpen's awful. Defense is really, really bad. We're running the bases awful. But hey, enough of that. We're 4-6 against the Padres, 8-2. And like you mentioned, after this, I want to get in to the pitching matchups. Just ingredients, Javi. Javi, today we're doing a little just ingredients when it comes to fueling your body. Quality matters, and that's why just ingredients is changing the game with clean, high quality products designed to support health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they are free from substance banned by major athletic organizations. I don't know if you knew this, Javi, but Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritize wholesome, nourishing ingredients without artificial junk. Whether you are recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed wheat protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Javi, pitching matchups. I mean, we got 1, 2, and 3 for the Padres versus 1, 2, and 3 for the A's. How Kings look pretty lights out so far this year. No, this is his second outing or his first.
This will be his third outing for the A's, going against the A's. Kind of tale of two cities so far. He was not dreadful, but he was a little bit like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know what happened. Like his first start, he just wasn't very good that first day. Only went 2 2/3 innings. The fastball was a little bit slower. Yeah, and it was like they weren't hitting the crap out of him. He just didn't look right. I don't know what it was. And then the Padres bullpen, as we talked about, 7-1, really carried them to the win on that one. I think that King, though, you look at the comeback after that, everything was up. Got a lot of whiffs. The changeup is awesome. All that stuff. He's going to be fine. I have no doubt about that. And if there's any worries, it'd be, look, this is still a guy that has not been a starting pitcher like full time for as long as many others, right? He kind of had his first full, you are the starter last year. And then the year before, he was a little bit of a starter towards the end with the Yankees and whatnot. Now he's full time. So it's a little bit of like, kind of a little bit like the Kyle Hart situation. Similar pitchers, by the way, in terms of their pitch mix, but he's still figuring things out. He'll be fine. I have no doubt about it. And that is not to say that I'm like this A's team is easy, right? That is not what I'm saying. I think that this A's team has a little bit of like power friendship going on right now in terms of the actual team, the ownership and all that, blah, blah. That's a whole storm that we don't have to get into. But for me, I like Soderstrom. I like Shea Langeliers. Yeah. I do. The guy hits home runs. And as a catcher, that's kind of all you could ask for. He might hit 30. He might be like a little bit of a discount Cal Raleigh, right? Maybe not the same level of defense, not the same level of power, but a little bit like that. And then I like JJ Bleday. And of course, I really like, obviously, he hasn't gotten going, I don't think, just yet. What's his face?
Rooker.
Rooker hasn't gotten going just yet. But I love Rooker and I love Lawrence Butler. Talk about, like, if you're an A's fan, frankly, whatever you are covering the A's, whatever your attachment is to them, it's a godsend that you got a personality and player like Lawrence Butler right now. Because this guy's a blast. I love the way he's just jokingly taking shots at Michael Harris. He's a lot of fun. I would not be surprised if the personality and stuff, things get trendy these days. People are desperate for baseball players that are allowed to like act like human beings on the field. Jazz Chisholm being a great example. I think Lawrence Butler like really could be just that guy. I don't know if he's going to be a Jackson Merrill type season, right? I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that this guy's really, really legit. I love all the stuff that I've seen from him, and he's a lot of fun. So this A's lineup is not an easy test for Michael King, and it worries me that Rooker hasn't gotten going yet. Will that be against us, right? Like, will that be against us? I'm like, no, save it for one more series. But bottom line is I think that this is not a cakewalk A's team that I think people are used to. The cakewalk teams are like the Marlins of the White Sox right now. You know what I mean? Like the A's are like the tier right above that, where it's exciting. They're kind of like the Nationals, honestly. Not to like diagnose your team, but I don't know. I think the A's are like really, really intriguing right now. And I think that people are going to start turning their heads.
We're countering with Luis Severino, and you kind of know what you're getting with Severino, right? Severino's been the same. He's going to grind you. He's going to fight you. He's going to give you innings. He's going to have his lights out type of outings where his velocity's up and he looks dominant, and he's going to have his bad outings as well, like he had against the Cubs in his second outing. He is what he is, but he's going to fight you the whole way. That's for sure. Butler, the thing with Butler, you make a great point. The thing with Butler is when things are going right for him, his personality shows. He looks awesome. He's laughing. He's joking around. He's really enjoying it. He could carry a team. When it's down, he's on the opposite side. He hits the tank. We saw that last year before he got sent down, came back up. We saw it a little bit earlier this year, but he got going in Colorado with 7 of 14. Soderstrom as well went 7 of 14 in that series. Rooker and Bleday, 2 of 26 combined. And our bottom of the lineup is really hurting us. Yesterday, we put out a lineup out there where the 7, 8, and 9 combined on the year was 6 of 64. So we're struggling in those types of turns. And you're going to see the rookie, Jacob Wilson. He's impressive. He is beyond impressive on both sides. But it's feast or famine. We don't know what you're going to get with the A's, right? We haven't been hitting in situations. We've been running the bases bad. Have a ton of situations where it's a runner on third, nobody out, not getting him home. And like last year's team, we're surviving on the home run, right? Can pitching hold up? Game 2. Tell me a little about Cease. It's Cease and Jeffrey Springs.
Look, Cease is kind of he's almost boring to talk about from a season-long perspective, right? Like, obviously cover each start, but he's going to be a guy that has a mid to low on the high ends. He could have a low 3 ERA, but it's probably going to be like a 3.4, and he's going to strike out 200-something batters. Like, that's just what he's going to do. He's doing that for years now. But what's interesting about him this year is that he has been experimenting more with a third pitch. His fastball's good, and his slider is one of the best sliders in baseball, right? Like, that's kind of what he relies on. But when you're facing teams that can punish fastballs more, when you can face some of the best lineups, as you saw in the playoffs, and frankly, as you've seen in the playoffs throughout his whole career, they could tee off on him. They're just like, wait on the slider, be very careful, that thing's unhittable. And then if the fastball is not working, to its absolute best, he can get hit up a little bit. That does not mean I'm telling other teams not to sign him. He's going to be $200 million pitcher in free agency, in my opinion, for sure. But I do think if he's able to add a third pitch, things get a little bit interesting. He's thrown more changeups so far this year. He's thrown at least 10 in both of his 2 outings that he's had. He never threw more than 5 in the previous few years. So this might be something that he is trying to address. He's got a knuckle curve. He throws that a little bit too. But I think he wants to have something it doesn't have to be a wipeout third pitch, but just something that he can go to throw off the lineup, frankly, just a little bit. And I'm curious to see, will he do that again? Or, because it might be just one of those things where I've hypothesized on my show where like, he's going to be a free agent. Do you really want to tinker with things too much in the free agency year? So how long would this last? Will you see him throw even more change-ups in the second game by the time people are listening to this? It'll be tonight for my show. I don't know, but I'm really curious to see how that goes. But overall, the swing and miss stuff is amazing. But he is every now and then he could come in there and he could give up a home run the worst time you need it. He'll just have that one inning where it's like, dang it, dude, you were doing great. Then you accidentally walked the batter, gave up a single, gave up a home run, and you were lights out before that. So still a great pitcher, but I'm curious to see how he does against your Blades, your Rookers, your Lawrences, your Langoliers, your Soderstroms, all those guys.
We got Jeffrey Springs countering against Cease. And for those who aren't familiar with Jeffrey Springs, he was one of the best left-handers in 2022 for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And someone that is familiar to the Padres, think of him as a left-handed Logan Webb. Same type of pitcher, right? Again, he obviously doesn't have that type of a consistency and resume a Logan Webb does, but when he's right, that's how you compare him to. Had Tommy John surgery. Been out last couple of years. And he's coming back. Really, his first full year is back this year. He had a rough spring, and I got concerned about him in the opener against Seattle. The thing with Springs is when he's right, his fastball is about 93, because then it makes his changeup look so much more filthier and tougher to hit. In the opener against Seattle, he went 6 innings, shutout ball, struck out 9. I'm like, but his fastball is at like 90, 91. I was concerned. I'm like, well, maybe I don't get it. Maybe he's just that good. And then he got rocked against the Cubs, right? I think it had more to do with the Seattle lineup than it did with Springs, right? And Seattle's lineup has been struggling. I don't know if it's a situation where he's just he needs to get stronger, right? Comes in time, and you don't know how a lot of these pitchers are going to react. But it should be interesting on Springs. He was lights out against Seattle, got rocked against Chicago. A Padre lineup is just brutal. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see. I am concerned about Cease. I mean, from top to bottom, that lineup is just filthy. Is San Diego going to counter with some righties, or is guys like Merrill, Luis, are they going to stay at Schoenworth? Are they going to stay in the lineup?
They're probably going to stay in the lineup. I imagine against a lefty, you might see Cronenworth get dropped a little bit in the lineup. You might see that occur. The Padres haven't announced any roster moves at the time of this recording, which might happen. I'm only putting that out there because Yuli Gurriel has been pretty bad for them so far. Shocker. But I do think maybe something happens there. Maybe they call someone up like Eggy Rosario. But for the most part, lefties, it would just bring some guys down, right? Like that's all that would happen. And you move some guys up in the lineup like a Sheets potentially. Wouldn't shock me if he hits 5th or something like that. But overall, yeah, you might just see Jackson Merrill go from 5th batter or 4th to 6th, right? Like that's all that's really going to happen. They are still figuring out their bench, basically.
Gotcha. Game 3. Who do you got game 3? I know who it is. It's off the top of my head. I can't remember.
It is Randy Vasquez for the Padres.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
How's he looked?
Interesting so far. The good news is that he's not giving up any hard contact. Not really. He's in the 90th percentile in hard hit rate. Barrel rate, 56th percentile. Average exit velo, 75th. So he's been okay there. He's been changing things up. Pitch mix has been very interesting this year. He lost weight in the offseason, which is cool in terms of like, okay, maybe there might be some improvements here. And he's throwing his cutter and sweeper a whole lot more. Cutters, especially on lefties. So I think that's what he's trying to do better, because he was horrid against lefties last year. Like I think they all had like an 860 OPS off of him, which is crazy combined with lefties, and righties less so, around 750, 720, around that area, right? So it was a lot more manageable. But this guy isn't going to be an ace or anything like that. He doesn't have the velocity or the stuff, especially in today's game. But the cutter he likes to throw in on lefties. So can he execute that well? Remains to be seen. He had a little bit of control issues in his last game, but at least it was just control issues. Maybe they weren't really teeing off on him all that much. 4 2/3. He gave up two earned runs, 3, but only 2 of them earned on 5 walks and 2 Ks. So a little bit of defensive mislapses by the Pods, but I think he's been like for a fifth starter, man, I'm all in. Like, I'm like, you know what? Not all in. I don't want to say all in. Nobody clip that. But I'm intrigued by it. I'm intrigued by, Ruben Niebla's tutelage and the fact that he has been pitching differently so far.
I got you. We're going with Osvaldo Bido. He's 2-0 right now. He's 5 innings in both his 2 outings. He's gotten hit a lot. He's gotten hit hard. Seattle had him up against the ropes. They couldn't take advantage. His second outing was against Colorado. Colorado's not the best lineup. He had a great second half last year. He got roughed up in spring training. It should be interesting what Bido we're going to get. Yeah, hit or miss with Bido. We don't know. Like I said, 2-0. He's looked okay. He has command issues, can walk a lot of guys. He's gotten away from his 2 starts, but he's shown the capability of being lights out. But a true test is going to come against these Padres, who is legit from top to bottom, which now brings me to getting some prediction picks from you, Javi, up next. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time with last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On A's, and as this series is coming up against the Padres, I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. I recently grabbed last-minute tickets for a game, and Game Time had unbeatable prices, which went more money for food and merch. This makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. I love that I can preview my exact seat before purchasing. No bad surprises when I get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Javi, what time is it?
It's game time, man.
Javi, prediction time. We got 7:05 tonight, I believe, 7:05 tomorrow. And I want to say 1:05 on Wednesday. I know it's an afternoon game. I could have that exact time off.
Well, let me tell you, man. First of all, shouts to everybody listening to this on a Tuesday for my feed. I will be posting this on a Tuesday. So hopefully Michael King did not make me look like an idiot or anything like that. I think that, look, it's hard to do predictions, right, for individual series because coming off a 7-0 start, everyone's like, yeah, the Padres are going to rip that Cubs bullpen in half. And they didn't. Not really, at least until the last game. Then they did. But I think that with this series, I think that the Padres can take it. I think so. I think it's because of the rotation. I think that that's what it'll be. I think that this is a really tough. I could actually see it more for Cease. I could see a world in which Rooker's like, I got this son of a gun. You know what I mean? Like, I could get this guy. I could start teeing off. I could see that. With King, not so much. I think that he's going to be really aces in this one. And Randy Vasquez, it just depends. Can he toy with the lineup enough? Can he just get through innings? I think will be the big kind of thing here. But they still got, you've got Mason Miller in the bullpen. Obviously, he's great. So it won't be as much, believe it or not, probably a harder bullpen for the Padres to face compared to the Cubs that they did last series. So I'm curious to see there. I think they could take it because of the fact that they have King and Cease and then Randy going this series. I think that that's just, they just have so much of a pitching advantage. But the Jeffrey Spring starts is the one that I'm looking at. Lefty. It's just going to be tough because of not just Shea Cronenworth, who is not like his career. He's not bad against lefties, but he was really bad last year. I think he's going to be better this year. He's actually done a little bit better off them, but that and Jackson Merrill also struggled against rookies. Lefties in his rookie season. I do not care because he's a rookie. Okay. So who cares? His numbers were so amazing. I don't care if he hit 210 against lefties last year, right? Like he was that good. So that would be something to look at. And in terms of like the DH spot, what do they do there? Where do they place Yuli Gurriel? What do they do? Does Gavin Sheets keep it up? Right? I don't know if he's going to keep it up, but he's been really clutch for this team. He's been hitting the ball hard. I'm curious to see how long that lasts because he has looked really, really solid so far. He hits the crap out of the ball, so that's exciting. I think it could be okay, man. But late games, It's across, you know what I mean? They're not traveling too far, thankfully. At least they're in the same state. But overall, I think that this is a series that the Padres probably need to have. But I'm curious to see the Jeffrey Spring starts. Badu, I think that this is a new pitcher that the Padres I don't think have faced before. And that's always, I don't care what lineup it is, that's always just weird, especially in a regular season. Just a game in a vacuum. The Padres got no hit by a, not no name, but let's say not a highly touted prospect from the D-backs years ago. I think it was Tyler Gilbert. Tyler Gilbert, no hitter, and he was making his major league debut. Right. So like, this is definitely a team, although I do like the lineup, that has shown that against new type of pitchers that they're not used to, especially if it's someone who has at least not looked horrible out of the gate. He's kept hard contact at least somewhat down. I could see a world in which they're like, oh, the Padres are going to torch this guy who is, oh, wow. He's only give up a one earned run on one Jake Cronenworth home run in the first, and he's been good. I could see that occurring, actually, and then that's when it becomes a battle of the bullpen. So I still think the Padres can take the series, but overall, I am a little bit nervous about the Jeffrey Spring start.
Coming into the year, all off season, I thought this A's team was really, really good. I still believe it. I predicted they're going to win the AL West. I said they're going to run away with it. And I based it on
a troll. Troll. Okay, go ahead.
I based it on a 2-month stretch they played last year in July and August, where they were one of the best teams in baseball, record-wise. And their roster now is better. But I did state that in order for that to happen, stars would have to be stars. Butler would have to be a Lawrence Butler that we expect. Brett Rooker would have to be that guy. JJ Bleday would have to be that guy. They haven't been. I thought pitching was going to be an issue. It is. And also the biggest thing I had a concern about, the biggest thing I was placing that prediction on was their chemistry, was their togetherness, was that chip on their shoulder the A's played with as far as being counted out, right? They've had none of that right now. They're playing lifeless baseball. They're going back to a park they seem like they have no interest in being at. They've been complaining about the park in the media. We saw Severino complain, say, hey, you're playing in a minor league ballpark. We're going to get minor league performances. Lawrence Butler kind of indirectly took a shot at it as well. So right now, this team does not have chemistry it needs to win. And they're not good enough to win on talent alone. I think the Padres are going to sweep the series. I don't think it's going to be close or competitive. I believe, don't get me wrong, I believe in this A's team. I think they're still going to come back and do what they do, but things for them are going to get worse before it gets better. Okay. And that's my opinion on it, and who knows, but this is going to be tough. This is going to be very tough for the Padres to hear. Padre fans, yourself. This is the most damning evidence. I am running at around 6% on these type of predictions. So, with that being said, I don't know, but
I know. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. Same thing as our odds to win our own division, I guess, right? I think that with that, though, I will say, well, it is like an excellent zag by you, I will say, in some ways. A good zag. You looked at the end of the season, and they've got, like I said, power, friendship. Maybe for some reason, the players bond over being in a small stadium. Guess what? Understandably so. They're like, this is weird. I'm in Major League Baseball. Why the heck am I at this stadium that's like not suited to Major League Baseball usual standards? It's crazy, dumb league sometimes. But what I will say is, I don't think it's like the craziest division in the world, right? Like, Rangers, Jacob deGrom had his worst start in a while, right? I still like that team, but Marcus Semien has actually been a little bit worse each year. I still think Corey Seager's a stud. I still think their prospects are studs. So I still think there'll be a good team. And the Mariners, what has been the problem with the Mariners for the past few years? They have been like, we have basically Atlanta, like, when Atlanta back in the 80s or whatever had that unbelievable rotation with like 3 Cy Young guys, late 90s, all that stuff. And they were like, we are going to respond by literally signing nobody. And we are just going to hope that Julio Rodriguez is a 7-win player every year. So, and guess what? They're 3-7, right? They can't score. Despite the fact that they have some talent in that lineup. And Victor Robles might be heading on the IL after a crazy, unbelievable catch. I don't know if you saw that.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not the craziest division in the world. Only, I would say it's not the take. I would say your take is like, I'm not like necessarily agreeing it or disagreeing. my thing is the division isn't one that I think is unimpeachable, right? I just think that there's some weird vibes with them. I don't know if they could do it this year, but the crazier things have happened. But based on what you're saying about the players, again, understandably so, it doesn't seem that they're like, yeah, let's rally around this. Instead, they're like, is it becoming like the money ball? Like I have to pay for whatever the equivalent of that right now, like pay for soda or whatever that scene is like. I don't know what's going on with that team, but I hope you're right about the sweep. You said you're only 6% so far in predictions.
6%, yeah, I hope we are. Done that. So that's the biggest damning thing. Here's the other thing. What I do believe, and we're only 10 games into the season, I do believe the final wild card spot in the American League will go to a team around 80 and 82, 81 and all. You know what I mean? So American League's not good. You know what I mean? Compared to the National League, those games, it's just, I see the Cubs, I see the Padres, and all those games, that crossover is just going to be a rout. And I think they're going to beat up on the worst team. The key to making it is for the A's, not necessarily to get the Padres, to get the better teams. It's to beat up on the White Sox. That's what we got to do. You know what I mean? We got to beat up on the White Sox. We got to beat on teams that aren't doing so well. But anyway, Javi, as always, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for making Locked On A's and Locked On Padres your first listen today. Or your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Javi was on there last night doing his thing. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll see what happens, Jav.